Thank you so much for joining this lesson. We're going to discuss relative speed, linear motion, Form 2 mathematics, paper 1, number 20. A bus and a Nissan left Nairobi for Eldoret, a distance of 340 kilometers at 7 a.m. The bus traveled at 100 kilometers per hour, while the Nissan traveled at 120 kilometers per hour. After 30 minutes, the Nissan had a puncture, which took 30 minutes to mend. Part A. Find how far from Nairobi the Nissan caught up with the bus. Remember to subscribe and to share this lesson with friends. Allow me to start by drawing a sketch for the distance between the two towns. Remember, we are having Nairobi at this end. Then we have Eldoret on the other end. The total distance is 340 kilometers. What we should know is that because the bus is starting to travel at 100, the Nissan at 120, and both are starting at 7 a.m. Sorry. Then after 30 minutes, it's when the Nissan is developing a puncture, which took 30 minutes to mend. Therefore, in the first 30 minutes, when they were both traveling, there is a distance they took. Then within the next 30 minutes, when the Nissan was mending a puncture, the bus was still moving. So by that time, when the Nissan is finishing up with the puncture, the bus is at some point, and that means the bus has already traveled for an hour. The bus has already traveled for an hour. Therefore, we're going to say after 1 hour, this is let's say at some point here, this is 8 a.m. the same day. We can get the distance by the bus, which is going to be 100 kilometers per hour times time, which is 1 hour, getting 100 kilometers. Therefore, the bus is going to be 100 kilometers towards LD. All right, what about the Nissan now, which has already developed a puncture? It has traveled for half an hour at 120. This is going to be 60 kilometers towards LD. Therefore, at 8 a.m., the Nissan is still at 60 kilometers from Nairobi towards LD. This is still at 8 a.m. So it means the bus traveled for 60 more kilometers when not 60 but 40. So at 8 a.m. we can talk of now the distance, because it is at 8 a.m. when the Nissan starts to move again. So at 8 a.m. at 8 exactly, the relative distance between these two vehicles is when we take 100 and we subtract 60, and this gives us 40 kilometers. So there is 40 kilometers between the two vehicles. 40 kilometers. Again, we can talk of relative speed. Relative speed is being introduced because one vehicle is trying to catch up with the other, and this will give us 20 kilometers per hour. So the Nissan is approaching the bus as 20 kilometers per hour because the bus is already moving at 100. The Nissan is coming behind it at 120. Therefore, the approaching speed when vehicles are following one another or moving to the same direction is 20 kilometers per hour, which is the difference between the respective speeds. Let me now talk about the relative time, the time taken to cover the relative distance. This is going to be the relative distance out of the relative speed, giving us exactly 2 hours. Our question is, find how far from Nairobi the Nissan caught up with the bus. Therefore, after 2 hours, we can say the distance is going to be 2 hours. The Nissan moving at 120 will give us 240 kilometers. That means total distance total distance from Nairobi now is going to be. There was an initial 60. Then now within the 2 hours, when it was trying to catch up with the bus, it's covering a 240, which means we will be having a total of 300 kilometers at the end of the day by the time they'll be catching up with one another. We can talk of an alternative whereby we can say, because this or alternative, because by the time they are catching up from 8 a.m., the bus is also moving for 2 hours at a speed of 100. The bus will cover 200 kilometers, speed times time. And the bus had initially narrowed down the distance by 100. Therefore, the total distance covered by the bus from Nairobi will be 200 plus the initial 100, giving us again 300 kilometers. So that is still distance from Nairobi to the catching point. Let's look at the part B. At what time of the day did the Nissan catch up with the bus? The time the Nissan caught up with the bus. That time is going to be from 8. We are adding 2 hours. And this is going to be 10:00 a.m. the same day. Then finally, we are told to find the time at which the bus reached Eldoret. Remember, the bus is not talking about any puncture or any stop of us. This bus was express and it maintained an average speed of 100 kilometers per hour within a distance of 340 kilometers. Therefore, when we divide by 100 kilometers per hour, getting 3.4 hours is the total time taken, which means we can convert these hours into 3 hours. Then we also convert 0.4 hours into minutes by multiplying by 60. So I'll be having 3 hours 24 minutes. That is the total time taken by the bus, which means when we talk now to specific time of arrival, then we'll be talking of the initial time the bus took off, and that is exactly 7:00 a.m. Then plus 3 hours 24 minutes is going to give us 10:24 hours the same day. We can also express it as 10:24 a.m. the same day.